Hi everyone. In the previous parts, we had been discussed about soil physical properties and soil chemical properties in different parts. In this video, we are going to discuss about soil biological properties. So soil is going to be the having full of life, and it is often said that a handful of soil has more living organisms than there are people on the earth. And these soils are going to be considered as the stomach of the earth, where consuming, digesting, and cycling of nutrients and the organisms is occurring. So let's see some sort of biological properties of these soils. So the biological activities that are occurring in the soil are going to be widely recognized as playing a vital part in the nutrient cyclings. That means our nitrogen cycle, carbon cycle, all these things, and in developing and maintaining the soil structure and contributing the soil health. Now, these soil biological properties are going to be related to both microbial and faunal activities that are occurring in the soil. So, the organisms that are included in the soil are going to be earthworms, nematodes, protozoa, fungi, bacteria, and different arthropods. So, the link between the soil organisms and how they impact the soil chemical and physical properties is going to be a complex study where we cannot easily study in a simple manner. So the soil biologist studying a variety of the things which are going to have the impact between these two, that is the soil and the organisms that are going to be present in the soil. So what is the importance of this soil biology that was studied by different soil biologists means? The soil organisms that are present in the soil are going to break down the organic matter, and while doing so, they make the nutrients available for uptake by the plants. Then the second thing, the nutrients stored in the bodies of soil organisms prevent the nutrient loss by leaching. Leaching means washed off. The third thing, microbes also maintain soil structure, while earthworms are important in bioturbation in the soil. That means while you are going to have the ploughing, what is the purpose of the ploughing? In the same manner, these earthworms are also useful in turning the soil, the fertile soil upwards. Okay, so that is going to be called as bioturbation. And the bacteria is also going to play a vital role in the nitrogen cycle. So that's how affecting the overall soil nutrient content. So not only the nitrogen, they are also be involved in the phosphorus, carbon, as well as sulfur. Like this, all the nutrient cycles are going to be dependent upon the bacteria. Then what are the main biological properties of the soil means? We are having the few discussion here. One is the organic matter, then the second one is soil biota, and then we are going to have some pathogenic microorganisms. As we know that the soil biology is going to play a vital role in determining many soil characteristics, but being a relatively new science, much remains unknown about the soil biology. And about how the nature of the soil is affected, everything is going to be a very difficult task. Then moving to the first type of the biological property, that is organic matter. As we know, the soil is going to be a living, dynamic ecosystem, and healthy soil is teeming with the microscopic and larger organisms that perform many vital functions, including converting the dead and decaying matter as well as minerals to the plants. And this different soil organisms which are going to feed on these dead organic components, either the plants and the animals, they are giving rise to the organic matter. Now, this organic matter is going to possess two parts. That means one is going to be the inorganic matter, another one is going to be the organic matter. The inorganic matter is the non-living part, that is the sand, silt, and the clay parts. The organic matter is going to possess the two parts in the soil. One is inorganic matter, which is nothing but the sand, silt, and the clay particles that are going to be present. And the organic matter is going to be including all the decomposing plant and animal material in the soil. And it is going to make an important contribution to the physical and the chemical properties of the soil, that we had seen the soil pH, temperature, all these things. Okay, then what is meant by decomposition? The breakdown or decomposing organic matter can help the soil structure. It also gets rid of dead things and helps the recycling of the nutrients. And the microorganisms and soil animals do the process of decomposition, and they turn the organic matter into humus. So what is meant by humus? What is the function of the humus means? When the plants and animals have completely decomposed and lost their structure, that material is going to be termed as humus. And this humus is going to be dark spongy material which forms a coating on the inorganic soil particles. So that means whatever the dark spongy materials that you are going to observe, that is going to be the humus. So all organic matter in the soil will eventually decay into the humus. And what are the advantages of this or humus that it is going to do to the soil means? The first one, it is going to increase the supply or availability of the nutrients for plants as it is going to be broken down. So that is the first one. So that's how it is going to improve the plant growth. Then the second one, it is going to increase the water holding capacity in the sandy soils because the organic matter holds the water. Then it is going to be of having a greater amount of holding the air in the soil because the organic matter open up the pore spaces by forming the crumbs, especially important in the clay soil. So that's how it is going to have the very much capacity of aeration, which is good for the soil fertility. Then the rises soil temperatures as the dark color of the organic matter absorbs the whatever the heat from the sun, and it is also allowing the some of the seeds to germinate. So these are the few advantages of this organic matter in the form of humus. Then what is the amount of organic matter in the soil? The amount of organic matter in any soil is determined by five main factors. So what are those five main factors? Or the first one, the amount of the water in the soil. Then what is the climate? Then the pH of the soil, oxygen levels in the soil, and how the soil is going to be managed. So these are the five factors which are influencing the amount of organic matter in any soil. So coming to the climate, if the organic matter is going to be broken down slowly, so there the climate is going to be of very low temperatures are going to be provided. That means during the cold climate and during the winter regions, the organic matter is going to be broken down very slowly. Why it is going to be happen like that? Because microorganisms are not going to be very active at low temperatures. Then coming to the water levels, so the amount of water in a soil affects the leaching, that is draining out or washed off nutrients from decomposing organic matter. When it is going to be happen? When regular heavy rainfalls are going to occur. So because the soil is going to be lost due to the floods or all these things, then obviously the nutrients are also going to be leached off. Then moving to the soil pH, the pH of a soil can affect where microorganisms are around and active. Some species or types break down organic matter faster than the others. Then oxygen levels, that means presence of the air. So if your soil with aerobic conditions encourages bacteria that turn the organic matter into humus. And this is going to be of a very fast process. That means the conversion of organic matter into humus is going to be very fast in the presence of air. Suppose if the air is going to be very less or low oxygen levels are prevailing, that is anaerobic conditions are there, then the conversion of organic matter or decomposition of the organic matter is going to be of very slow. Then coming to the land management, so cultivation, then removal of the crops will lower the amount of potential organic matter in the soil. For example, when a crop like lettuce is harvested and sold, there is a direct loss of organic matter because the whole plant is going to be removed. So there will be no debris of any plant or the branches like this. So there will be direct loss of the organic matter. So the crop will not decompose in the soil it grew in. If the stubble is returned to the soil, some of the organic matter will be returned. Okay, so these are the few factors which are going to affect the organic matter presence in the soil. Then coming to the second type, that it is going to be of soil biota. So here the soil biota is going to be of the microorganisms, and the organisms that are going to be present in the soil are going to be considered as soil biota. So the soil contains a vast variety of life formings, and ranging from submicroscopic, that is the viruses, to the earthworms, which are going to be considered as a macrofauna. Okay, so the microscopic as well as the macrofauna, both are going to be present in the soil. So coming to the soil animals, especially the earthworms and some insects, tend to affect the soil favorably through their burrowing, okay, and feeding activities, which tend to improve the soil aeration and drainage through structural modification of the soil column. In general, these are going to affect the soil chemical properties to a lesser extent, though their actions indirectly enhance the microbial activities due to the creation of a more favorable soil environment. Then coming to the soil microorganisms. So here the soil microorganisms are going to be of having very important, and they are going to be very important in aspects of cycling of the nutrients as well as the decomposition process, and they increase the soil aeration and penetrability, and they are also involved in the transmission of certain plant diseases. And at the same time, these soil microorganisms are also acting as controlling the plant disease. So this is how you are going to have the different importance of the soil microorganisms presence in the soil. Then the bacteria, coming to the first type of the microorganism, that it is going to be present in most abundant and predominant one in the soil is bacteria. So we have discussed about the soil microorganisms in detail in another video. You can go through it. Okay. So the name of the video is going to be the soil microorganisms and their importance. So there I have given the brief detailed description of this soil microorganisms. So here we are discussing just about the few microorganisms and their relation with the soil. So here coming to the bacteria, so as we know, this is the foremost one which is going to be most abundant and predominant organism in the soil. And these are going to be microscopic, single-celled organism, and they love to grow in the warm and moist soils of neutral pH. At the same time, they cannot make their own food except a few photoautotrophic bacteria. So obviously they are going to be dependent on the ready-made sources of the organic materials that are being present in the soil or that are coming from the plants. And these bacteria are going to break down and decompose the organic matter and release the nutrients into the soil. And they are going to be called as decomposers. And these decomposers need, that means they are going to need it to decompose the dead organic matter, droppings, and urine. So without these bacteria, if the soil is going to have the remaining of all these things, then it is not going to be a fertile land. So an infertile or sandy land, if you are going to take, then you can find very few bacteria. So because of that few bacteria only, the sandy soil is going to be of infertile in nature. So this may be one of the reasons where the sandy soils are going to be of not suitable for plant growth properly. Okay, and if you see here the role of the bacteria, so I had seen here a picture is going to be the nitrogen cycle. So this nitrogen cycle is one of the example of the function of these bacteria, how they are going to fix the nitrogen. So the nitrogen fixing bacteria in the soil taken the nitrogen, that is atmospheric nitrogen, and fix it in the form of nitrates. So that means there is a lots of process. This we will discuss in the coming videos about the nitrogen cycle. So here remember that the nitrogen that is present in the atmosphere is going to fix into the soil by the microorganisms into the form of nitrates. And these nitrates get into the plants. That means the plants will uptake these nitrates form, and then when it is going to take the water via its roots, this nitrate is also going to be going into the plant and they are using it for their metabolism activities. Now the plants use these nitrates to make proteins, then they are going to grow well. When plants die and they are going to be fall, they are going to be turned into the organic matter. And one of the products released is going to be the ammonia or ammonium ions. And the special nitrifying bacteria change these nitrates, that means whatever the ammonia, into nitrites, and from the nitrates into the nitrates, which can be used for a new plant growth. And this whole process is going to be called as nitrification. So in the same manner, there are other bacteria, that is a denitrifying bacteria, that live in soil lacking in that means absence of oxygen, and where they break down some of the soluble nitrogen into nitrogen gas. So that's why we call it as denitrification. And the nitrogen then goes back into the atmosphere where it is once again unavailable for plants to use. And this process is going to be calling as denitrification. And the nitrogen can also be lost by another way, that is going to be called as leaching. Okay, so this is an example how the bacteria is involved in the nutrient cycle. So along with this, it is also involved in the process of decomposition of cellulose and other carbohydrates, okay, and in the reduction of certain compounds like sulfur and iron. So all these processes play a significant role in the plant nutrition. The next to the bacteria is actinomycetes, which are going to be numerous and widely distributed in soil, and they are going to be next to the bacteria in abundance. And the examples of the actinomycetes that we find in the soil are Nocadia, Streptomyces, and Micromonospora. So still we are having so many. And what is the role of this actinomycetes? Means they are responsible for decomposition of the organic matter that was already initiated by the bacteria and fungi. That means it is going to do the further decomposition of the humus in the soil. And they are also involved in the degradation of all sorts of organic substances like cellulose, polysaccharides, proteins, fats, and organic acids. And one more important aspect regarding the actinomycetes is the soil containing actinomycetes are one of the source where we can extract the antibiotic producing one. So here the actinomycetes species are the one which are involved in the production of so many types of antibiotics like streptomycin, terramycin, auramycin, etc. So next to the actinomycetes is fungi. So fungi is going to be present in the form of mycelial bits, okay, or they may be present in the form of spores, or they may be present in the form of rhizomorph. The best examples of the fungi that we find in the soil are, we had so many, I have given here only few. You have Rhizopus, Alternaria, Aspergillus, Trichoderma, Fusarium, Mucor. So we have a number of the fungi we can find here, so etc. Then what is the role of this fungi in the soil? So the majority of the fungi that are going to be present in the soil feed on the dead organic matter, and they are also involved in the decomposition, especially the one which is going to have the more content of cellulose as well as the lignin. So the cellulose component and the lignin component are mainly getting digested by the fungi rather than the bacteria. And these are the plant compounds, that means whatever the cellulose and the lignin are there, these are going to be considered as a plant compounds and as well as the animal compounds, which are going to be find impossible to digest very easily. But the fungi is going to do that process of decomposition of the cellulose and the lignin compounds of plants and animals. Now the fungi along with the bacteria break them into the simpler compound that the plants can absorb as nutrients. Some fungi live in association with the plant roots. The best example is mycorrhiza, where you can see that mycorrhiza is going to be inhabited throughout the roots, and they are going to be of giving more advantages to the plants. So this mycorrhiza concept also I have given in detail about the mycorrhizal association with the fungi. That means with the plant, so in detail in another video, so you can go through it if you want. Then the fungal threads grow among the and often into the plant roots, and they can shelter. That means the fungi is going to gain the shelter and they are going to supply the nutrients to the plants. So that's how there will be a symbiotic association between the fungi and the plants. Then moving to the algae. So algae are also present in the soil where moisture and sunlight are going to be of available. So in that conditions we are able to see the algal growth. And these algae can be of photoautotrophic aerobic organisms, and they are going to obtain the carbon dioxide from atmosphere and energy from the sunlight, by which they are going to synthesize their own food. And they are going to be of mainly, that means the algae present in the soil are going to be mainly unicellular, filamentous or colonial. The best examples of classes which are present in the soil are Cyanophyta, Chlorophyta, Xanthophyta and Basileophyta. Then how the algae is going to be important in the soil means these, especially for example if we check the blue-green algae or the algae, they are going to play an important role in the maintenance of soil fertility, especially in tropical soils. Then these are going to add the organic matter. How they are going to add the organic matter means once the algae is going to die, so whatever the carbon that is present in their body is going to be one of the source of thing which is going to be increasing the soil fertility. And not only that, they are going to act as a cementing agent in binding soil particles and thereby reducing the soil erosion. When we come to the blue-green algae or cyanobacteria, there are going to be the mucilage sheath, which is going to have the hygroscopic in nature. That means they are able to absorb the water from the atmospheric humidity, and thus helps in water retention capacity of the soil. So they are also, that means these algae are also help in weathering of rocks and building up of the soil structure. So these are the few roles of the algae that they are going to be of important in the soil maintenance. Then coming to the macrofauna of the soil that it is going to possess, the earthworms are the best examples where they are very important in making the soil fertile by bioturbation. And the droppings of it, whatever the depositing cast, that are going to be very important in bringing the soil organic matter, mixing it into the soil. So this is how the earthworms are playing a very important role in making the soil fertile as well as improving the soil structure. Then coming to the soil pests, so here you can see many of the organisms that are important in nutrient cycle and breakdown of the organic matter too. But many of the arthropods are also going to act as a plant plus. That means they are going to damage the plants. So we are having the so many arthropods that we can observe in the soil which possess the external skeletons like crustaceans, insects, spiders, woodlice. So these are all comes under the arthropods that we will see in the soil. Then coming to the nematodes, so these are also important in breakdown of the organic matter. But some nematodes are very acting as a serious plant pest. That means they can damage the plants very severely and damages our whatever the crops or the agriculture forms. So the examples of how these nematodes are going to act on plants are going to potato, onions, beans, bulbs, and the strawberries. So mainly these are going to affect the root crops as well as some sort of creepers, because they are going to be of directly contact with the soil. So that may be one of the reason why how these nematodes are directly attacking them. And the difficulty of this controlling nematodes is also going to be of very much a serious problem, because they are going to lay the eggs and the cyst in these soils which can survive for 10 years or more in some species. So that may be the reason why we are unable to protect our plants or the crops from the effect of this nematodes. Then moving to the next one, soil pathogenic organisms. So what is the soil pathogenic organism? So until now we had seen the three, I told you that we are having the three biological properties that we have to discuss of the soil. One we have discussed is the organic matter. Then second, we have discussed about the soil biota, both the macrofauna and the microflora. Then the third one is a soil pathogenic organism. So what is meant by soil pathogenic organism? The organisms which are having the capacity of causing the diseases are going to be called as pathogenic organisms. So especially we are discussing about the pathogenic microorganisms. So certain bacteria, fungi and viruses are going to have the capacity of causing the diseases to plants and whatever the organisms are there, and out of which all viruses are able to cause the diseases or disorders. They are not no way helpful to the soil. So coming to the bacteria, some soil bacteria are pathogens and they are able to cause the disease to the plants. For example, galls and root rots of the plants are the best example. They cause the plant roots to rot and then plant will collapse and die. So this is the one example. Then coming to the fungi, fungi is also doing the same. These fungi can grow rapidly in the plant tissues when conditions suit them. That means more moisture content is there, more carbohydrate enrichment is there. So obviously they will grow acidic conditions. So some fungi can cause the diseases and they too cause the plants to rot. Damping off is a disease that can affect all the seedlings that we are sowing in the soil. Then verticillum wilt causes damage to the roots of plant and then it will wilt and die. That means the total plant will wilt and die. Phytophthora is a soil-borne disease that causes damage to the roots. So these are the few examples of the diseases that are going to be caused by this fungi. Then viruses. So obviously there are a number of ways viruses can be transmitted through the soil, and the infected roots of the plants with these viruses can spread to the other roots also, and that's how the total plants or the crops are going to be damaged by the effect of these viruses. So the best example that we can take is the tobacco mosaic virus, which can also affect or infect the tomatoes. That means it is not going to kill the plant, but what it is doing is it is causing the mosaic or molted leaves on the leaves. So what happens if the leaves are not going to have the proper photosynthesis, all these things, obviously the plant will have the stunted growth, and if that is going to be done, and it is also going to have the distortion where there will be no proper photosynthesis. If there is no proper photosynthesis, obviously there will be no production of the flowering and the fruits. So that is a damage to the that whatever the tomato crop. So that's how these viruses are affecting. Okay, so this is all about the soil biological properties in detail. So with this we have finished all the properties of the soil, that is physical properties, chemical properties and the biological properties. Thank you.